You're going to have to already forgive me. I can already tell that when it comes to this kind of stuff, I get really long-winded about it because part of me wants to explain it and part of me wants to make fun of it and part of me then wants to say why we actually are like this. And it's a real tricky thing. So forgive me. If you hate me at the end of this, I can live with that. All right, so you watched that long video, or longer, not long, longer video from Steven Pinker. Are humans getting better? And so let me just talk about this for a second. Let me talk about how this sort of works together for the Enlightenment and honestly, again, for us today. So what's the goal of all this stuff? Like, what do we want to do? How do we know we've sort of made it? The goal is perfection, right? And perfection again means, I guess you could say perfect use of reason, because that would lead to then correct, perfect thinking, correct, perfect acting. And the path to do that is what we call progress. And so let me just talk about this here in the sense of the individual. So think about yourself. How do you know that you are better today than you were 2, 3, 4 years ago? What are you doing today to make yourself, quote unquote, better later on? Now, when I say the word better, like, how do you define that? When we say better, we usually mean it's closer to some goal. Like, what's your goal? Like, for example, let me just give you an example. You guys are all in college right now. Why? Like, why the heck are you in college? Why are you taking classes? Somehow you think by going to college, you will be better. This is our word for progress here. Better what? Like, what does that even mean? Like, sure, some people go to college strictly for the cash, right? I'm going to get a better job. I'm going to make more money. That's fine. But honestly, I would be shocked if that's really, at least the people in a honors class like this, I would be shocked if that's sort of the be all end all, that there's not this element to it. And it really does beg the question, like, what does that mean when you are getting better? How do you know? Like, what does that even mean? So for individuals, we might say like education. Education, you get better and better at obeying reason. According to this sort of Enlightenment idea, if it's all about obeying reason, I'm getting better and better at it. And that then arguably would then be reflected in, for example, how I act, who I am, that sort of thing. If reason's what it's all about and I'm obeying reason better, then I should be acting better. I should be living better. I should be more fully human, right? Again, humanity's idea comes back into this. Reason will show you your duty to yourself and your duty to humanity. So not only correct acting is not only just sort of self-centered, it's also humanity, that I'm making humanity better as well. Okay, so that's me, not me, that's us. That's how we kind of try and think about this. Though I would challenge you, like, what does this actually mean for you? All right, that's great. But the important thing for the Enlightenment is not just this happens at the individual level, though it's very important it happens at the individual level. But one of the big arguments about the Enlightenment is that this is also the story of humanity. If this is the story of me, this is the story of all of us. So what, for example, is history? If biography is sort of me talking about this for myself, excuse me, what is history? History is then the story of humanity's journey from ignorance and superstition to perfection and enlightenment. So let me just draw a nice little arrow here. This is time. Okay, so here are the Greeks. Here are maybe the Romans. Here's the Renaissance. Here's the Enlightenment. Now, this could be sort of a time thing, right, where I put the years on here. That's great. Here's us. But that's not what they're talking about. It's not just sort of passage through time. It's that as time goes on, humans are getting better and better and better. This is the graph of betterness. But not just that. I mean, the same way that you are, like, if here's you at 3 years old, and here's you at 12 years old, and here's you at today, whatever you are, I don't know, 20 years old, whatever you guys are, I don't know. And so are you there yet? Here? No. But you are better than you were here and better than you were here. And this is the story of humanity as well. Like back here, we had slaves, then we sort of got rid of slaves, women got the vote. It's just everything's sort of getting better. And you saw that sort of in the Pinker argument, not just about sort of ideas and things like that, but actual sort of graphs. So it begs the question then, right? If the goal is perfection, then there is an endpoint to this. And what the heck is that? That's the big question here. So it's a story of humanity's journey from ignorance and superstition to perfection and enlightenment. Enlightenment is this process, but it's also the thing of getting right there. It's a very sort of Buddhist idea. And this is sort of the first paragraph of Diderot, the Encyclopédie. I'm sure that's French. That comes from sort of that idea right there. So what then does perfection mean here? Ooh, that's a tricky one. What is that sort of end point? You're going to read Condorcet here in just a second. I'll give you a little freebie from Condorcet. The time will therefore come when the sun will shine only on free men who know no other master but their reason. Now, Condorcet definitely means men here, but as we move forward in time, we mean free people, persons, humans. People, humans. And this is the key word, free. What do we mean free? We mean free from any other master than reason. That is sort of the end result here. Freedom is essentially the word, but freedom in a very specific sort of idea of this is that you are free. No one is telling you what to do. Dictatorship? No way. Nothing like that. You are free to make your own decisions. Human beings are free. They don't have masters anymore. That's the idea. You don't have to know all of this, but I just want to point out sort of this Enlightenment idea is driven by a whole bunch of other things that are sort of come together during the 17th century, the 18th century, the scientific revolution, the individualism that we were talking about with John Locke, and of course, moving on to what we talked about with liberalism. Capitalism, we haven't really talked that much about. We did a little bit, but definitely that would be a part of that sort of free to choose, free from government intervention. Science is going to take its role in terms of engineering, medicine, but essentially we could almost say over here, besides the health, we could almost say technology. And that all these things, freedom, wealth, technology essentially freeing us from other things like, for example, I don't have to wash dishes. I have a dishwasher. That frees me up, gives me more leisure time to pursue these things. Health, that I'm in better health, that all those things will lead toward progress, or what comes to be termed the pursuit of happiness. And that, again, is freedom again. Again, not just in this sort of way, but freedom in all the ways that these things give us freedom. Okay, so now we're going to talk about, next thing we're going to talk about is equality and tolerance. So two ideas that come along with this, sort of political ideas, but also social ideas and ideas that sort of find their way into other things.